Okay, so there's this AI assistant that's been making huge waves online. And no, it's not just another chatbot you talk to in a browser tab. This one's different. It's called Clawdbot, and the big claim is that it's the AI that actually does things for you.
And look, if your first thought is, ugh, this looks complicated, you are definitely not alone. I mean, check out this tweet. It just perfectly captures that feeling, right? But what's so great about it is the second part. In just 30 minutes, they went from feeling overwhelmed to, and I quote, controlling Gmail, calendar, WordPress like a boss. That's a pretty sweet payoff.
So what does that really mean, does things? Well, this slide just breaks it down perfectly. Think about the AI you're used to. You ask it something and it tells you how to do it. It's like a consultant, right? It gives you a plan. Clawdbot is totally different. It's more like an employee. You ask it to organize your files and it just says, okay, I've organized them for you. It doesn't give you instructions, it gives you results.
And that's why everyone's so hyped about it. It's this shift from advice to action. But, it brings up the big question, the one we're here to answer. Is this just another cool toy for developers, for people who are super comfortable with code and command lines? Or can anyone really use this thing? Well, that's exactly what this is all about. In the next few minutes, we're going to give you the simple, step-by-step guide to Clawdbot specifically for the rest of us. No computer science degree required, I promise. Okay, so what exactly is this thing? Honestly, this quote just nails it. Think of Clawdbot like this. ChatGPT met a personal assistant, fell in love, and had a baby that actually works. It's just the perfect way to think about it, right? It's got the brains of a big AI model, but the hands of an assistant that can actually get stuff done.
So how does this whole thing actually work? It's pretty cool, actually. It's made up of three main parts. Let's start with the first one, the gateway. Now, this part is just genius, especially for us normal folks. You don't have to download a new app or learn a new interface. You talk to your Clawdbot using the apps you're already on all day, like WhatsApp or Telegram. It's basically like texting a superpowered assistant. All right, so that gateway connects you to the second piece of the puzzle, the brain. And this is a really important point. Clawdbot itself isn't a new AI. Think of it more like a console, and you get to choose which game or which AI brain you plug into it. You can use powerful models like Claude or GPT. You're in control of the intelligence behind the whole operation.
And that brings us to the final and maybe most important part, the skills. So if the gateway is how you talk to it, and the brain is what does the thinking, the skills are the hands. This is what lets the AI actually reach out and interact with your digital world. It's how it can organize your files, add something to your calendar, or even just browse the web for you. This is the doing part.
Okay, let's talk about a big myth floating around, the Mac Mini myth. You might have seen these pictures online of people buying shiny new computers just to run Clawdbot. Let's be super clear, you absolutely do not need to do that. You can run this on an old laptop that's just collecting dust, or even on a super cheap $5 a month server in the cloud. It's way more accessible than you think. All right, now for the part that probably makes some of you a little nervous, the setup. And yeah, I'm not going to lie, you are going to see a black screen with text, a command line. But here's the secret. It's pretty much just a copy and paste job. And right after that, a super friendly setup wizard pops up to hold your hand the rest of the way.
When you really boil it down, it's just 5 simple steps. First, you pick a home for it, that old laptop or cheap server. Second, you run that copy-paste installer. Third, you just answer the questions the setup wizard asks you. Fourth, you connect it to an app like Telegram. And fifth, this is the fun part, you give it a little personality so it knows how to work with you.
And speaking of that installer, this is it. This line of code right here. This is literally the scariest part of the entire process. And what do you have to do with it? You just copy it. And you paste it. That's it. This one little line kicks off the whole installation. Once you paste that in, the wizard takes over. And don't worry, it's not going to grill you with a bunch of techie questions. It's going to ask you simple stuff like, hey, where should I save your files? Or which AI brain do you want to use? It'll ask for your API key, and we'll show you where to find that, and which messaging app you prefer. Pro tip, Telegram is usually the easiest one to start with. And here's the best part. The payoff is immediate. I mean, right out of the box, with 0 extra configuration, you can start texting your new assistant and have it do real useful stuff. Tell it to organize that disastrous downloads folder. Ask it to find all the PDFs you saved last month. Send it a link and tell it to give you a summary. It's instantly useful. And once you get the hang of it, that's when things get really interesting. Check out this quote. This user has their Clawdbot working in the background, finding connections between conversations on its own. That's the next level, right? It goes from being a tool you give commands to an assistant that actually starts thinking for you. So, the big question, is Clawdbot for you? Well, here's a simple way to think about it. If you're someone who really cares about privacy, and you love the idea of your AI running on your own machine, or if you desperately need to automate stuff with your actual files and apps, then yeah, you should totally jump in. On the other hand, if you want something with literally zero setup, or you just need an AI to answer questions, maybe it's best to wait. It's incredibly powerful, but it's not a one-size-fits-all solution.
Okay, let's talk money. How much does this all cost? The Clawdbot software itself is totally free. It's open source. But remember the brain we talked about? The powerful AI models? You do have to pay to use those. For most people, that's going to land somewhere between $15 to $25 a month. So it's pretty much in line with what you'd pay for other premium AI subscriptions.
So let's just end with this thought. AI that just answers questions is already changing everything. So what happens when AI that can actually act is in everyone's hands? What does that do for our work, our creativity, just our daily lives? That's the huge shift that a tool like Clawdbot is really all about.
All right, let's talk about an AI that's been generating a ton of buzz lately, Clawdbot. You might have heard it called Claude with hands, and today we're going to dive in and unpack what that really means. This is a pretty big deal for personal AI, so let's get right to it.
So think about this for a second. The AI we're all used to, it's incredibly smart, sure, but it's kind of trapped. It's stuck behind the screen. It can talk a great game, but it can't actually do anything. The whole idea behind Clawdbot is to answer this one powerful question. What if your AI could finally break free from the chat window and start getting things done for you?
And this slide just lays it all out, doesn't it? On one side, you've got your standard AI chat. It lives in a browser tab, forgets what you said 5 minutes ago, and, well, it just talks. But Clawdbot is a whole different beast. It lives right inside the chat apps you already use, it has a long-term memory, and this is the absolute game changer, it actually does things.
So what is this thing officially? Well, at its heart, Clawdbot is an open-source, self-hosted AI agent. Now, let's unpack that for a sec. Open source means anyone can see and modify the code. And self-hosted? That's huge. It means it runs on your hardware, your computer, not on some company's servers. This isn't just another chatbot. Think of it more like a digital operator for your entire computer. This is where it gets really, really cool. Let's break down what makes it so different. First, persistent memory. You can tell it something and weeks later, it'll actually remember. Second, it's proactive. It doesn't just wait for you to talk to it, it can message you first, maybe with a morning briefing. It also has full access to your computer. It can organize files, run scripts, you name it. And best of all, it meets you where you are, right inside WhatsApp, Telegram, Slack, no new app to learn. I love this quote because it hits the nail on the head. It perfectly captures what Clawdbot is all about. You're taking the raw intelligence of a huge language model and combining it with the practical skills of a real personal assistant. It's a difference between asking an encyclopedia for facts and just telling your assistant to get the job done. Okay, so that all sounds amazing in theory, but how does it actually work? Let's peel back the layers a little bit and take a look under the hood.
So the magic behind all this is something called a local-first philosophy. And honestly, it's exactly what it sounds like. All your stuff, your chats, your preferences, the AI's memories of you, it all lives right there on your own computer. This is a massive deal for privacy. Nothing gets sent to some random corporate server. It's all yours and you're in complete control. So let's trace the command from start to finish. Imagine you send a message in Telegram. The first thing that happens is a little process on your machine called the gateway catches it. Think of it like a front door. That gateway then passes your request to the AI brain. That's the big language model that does the thinking. The brain figures out what needs to be done and then picks the right tool or skill from its toolbox to actually execute the task, like opening a file or searching the web.
So a really simple way to think about it is in these 3 parts. You've got your local gateway, which is kind of like the switchboard operator directing traffic. You've got the AI brain, which, well, it's the brain making all the big decisions. And then you have your skills library. This is the toolbox. These are the hands that let it interact with Gmail, GitHub, or just browse the internet for you.
All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty, getting this thing up and running. Now, I know this part might seem a little technical or even a bit daunting, but stick with me here. It's actually more straightforward than you might think.
And here it is, the famous one-liner. Yeah, I know, it looks a little like something out of a hacker movie, right? But all this command is really doing is telling your computer, hey, go to this web address, download the installation script, and run it. That's it. This is the main technical hurdle, and it's really just a copy-paste job.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. People who've actually done it say the same thing. The best part is, after you run that command, you're not just left on your own. It immediately launches a simple, friendly setup wizard to walk you through the rest.
So what are we talking? Time-wise, usually about 30 minutes tops. The whole process really boils down to 4 simple steps. First, you decide where you want to run it. Then you paste in that one command. After that, you just follow the wizard's prompts to connect everything up. And finally, you send a test message to link your chat account. And you're done. Now for the really fun part. Once you've got it all set up, what can you actually do with it? What are these new superpowers? Let's explore some incredible, real-world use cases. Okay, picture this. You've got this big, tedious research task. We've all been there, right? A dozen browser tabs open, trying to piece everything together. Instead of all that pain, you can just fire off a simple prompt to Clawdbot, just like this one. And then you just sit back and watch the magic happen. Clawdbot goes out, scours the web, digests all that information, and then boom, it builds a perfectly structured, easy-to-read comparison document right inside your Notion account. It's not just giving you a list of links, it is doing the entire task for you.
And look at that number. 2 to 3 hours of your life just handed back to you. That's not just a small convenience. That is a massive leap in productivity. That's time you can now spend on things that actually matter.
But it gets even better, because Clawdbot doesn't just sit around and wait for you to give it a command. It can be proactive. You can actually schedule it to bring information to you, just like a real-life assistant would. The way it does this is with a clever feature called the heartbeat. Basically, you can set up recurring tasks. Tell it to check your calendar every morning, or to watch a website for a price drop. And when it spots something you need to know, it messages you first. This completely changes the game. It stops being just a tool you use and starts becoming a proactive teammate you work with. So I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds fantastic, but is it actually right for me? And that's a super important question. So let's get real for a minute and look at who's going to get the most out of this right now. This table breaks it down perfectly. If you're someone who really values privacy and control, if you need to automate things on your computer, and you kind of enjoy tinkering with your tools, then yeah, this is probably right up your alley. But on the other hand, if you just want something that works instantly with zero setup, or if the thought of a command line gives you a headache, you might want to wait a bit.
And let's talk about the cost, because that's always a big question. The Clawdbot software itself, it's completely free and open source, which is awesome. But you do have to pay for the AI brain it connects to. For most people, the cost of those API calls to models like Claude or Gemini is going to land somewhere between $15 and $25 a month. So it's pretty much in line with other premium AI subscriptions out there.
So all of this really brings us to a final big question. We're at a fork in the road when it comes to personal AI. It can either stay as a tool we visit in a browser tab, or it can evolve into a true proactive teammate that's woven into our daily workflow. Clawdbot is a massive step towards that second future. The only question left is, which one will you choose? Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a project that's been making some serious waves online. It's an AI assistant called Clawdbot, and it's all built around one huge idea. What if your AI could finally, break out of the chat window and actually start doing things for you? Okay, think about this for a second. We have these incredibly powerful AI models, right? Things like Claude and GPT-4. I mean, they can write code, they can summarize super dense documents, they can basically plan your whole life. But let's be real, most of the time, they're just stuck. They live inside a browser tab, totally cut off, just waiting for you to copy and paste stuff in and out. Well, that isolation, that's the exact problem Clawdbot is trying to fix.
And this slide really nails the difference. On the left, you've got the AI we're all used to. It gives you information, but the actual work, that's still on you. You're the one who has to execute. But on the right, that's the promise of Clawdbot. It doesn't just give you an answer, it does the answer. It's directly managing your files, running apps, and turning what you ask for into a finished task right there on your own computer.
So how in the world does it do all this? Well, it's all about breaking free from that digital cage. So let's meet the AI that a lot of people are calling a whole new kind of personal assistant.
This quote pretty much went viral, and for a really good reason. It just perfectly gets the idea across. Imagine your favorite AI, but now it has hands. Hands that can type on your keyboard, click your mouse, organize your files, and run commands in your terminal. It's no longer just a brain in a jar, it's an active agent right there in your digital world.
Okay, let's break down the words on this slide because they are super important. Open source. That means anyone can look at the code, which is great for transparency and lets the community build on it. Self-hosted. This is the big one. It runs on your machine, not some company's server, which means you have total control over all your data. And finally, it all works through apps you already use, like WhatsApp or Telegram. So you're not learning some clunky new program, you're just talking to it.
This slide really lays out what makes it so unique. Because it runs locally, your data stays private, period. It works in your apps, so there's nothing new to learn. It has full system access, so it can actually do things like clean up your desktop. But here's the real game changer. It's proactive. This isn't an assistant that just sits there waiting for you. It can message you first with a morning summary or an important alert because it also has a persistent memory of what you've talked about before and what you care about.
Okay, so that all sounds great, but how does it actually work under the hood? Well, it's built on a few key pieces that make up this really powerful local-first toolkit.
So everything kicks off with what's called the gateway. Just think of it like an air traffic controller for messages. A command comes in from your Telegram, the gateway grabs it, figures out where it needs to go, sends it over to the AI's brain, and then routes the answer right back to you. It's the central hub for everything.
Now, if the AI is the brain, then skills are the hands. This whole thing is modular. You can add a skill that lets it browse the web, then bolt on another one to access your Google Calendar, and another to control your smart lights. It's basically a growing toolbox of actions that makes the AI incredibly capable.
And all of this is built on that core idea, local first. See, most services you use are constantly sending your data to be processed on some remote server farm. Clawdbot does the opposite. Everything, your conversations, your files, your settings, it all lives on your machine. This isn't just a cool feature, it's a fundamental statement about who should own and control your data.
So let's walk through how a simple task gets done. Let's say you texted a link and say, summarize this article for me. The gateway routes your message, the AI brain understands the request and says, okay, I need my web browsing skill for this. It uses that skill to read the article, uses its brain to summarize it, and then the gateway zips that summary right back to you on WhatsApp. It's simple, it's powerful, and it all happens on your computer.
All right, the theory is cool, but what can you actually do with this thing? This is where it gets really, really fun. Let's dig into some real-world use cases, and we'll separate the stuff that works right away from the things that need a little more setup.
First up, let's talk about the easy wins. These are the kinds of tasks that Clawdbot can pull off pretty much as soon as you get it up and running. They give you that instant whoa moment where you see the power.
And these are just so practical. I mean, we've all stared at a downloads folder that's just pure chaos. With Clawdbot, you can send a quick text like, organize my downloads folder, and poof, it's all sorted. Or you can ask, hey, how much disk space do I have left? And get an answer instantly without having to click through a bunch of system menus. It just turns all those annoying little digital chores into a simple conversation.
Now, this is the kind of tweet that made Clawdbot famous. It sounds completely insane, right? Building an entire website just by texting an AI, all while you're chilling on the couch? It seems like magic, and it really captures that huge potential that's getting everyone so excited.
But, you know, with most things that sound like magic, it's always a good idea to ask, what's really going on behind the curtain? What does it actually take to pull something like that off?
And here comes the reality check. The person who did this, they were a developer. They weren't just typing, build me a website, and watching it appear. They were guiding the AI through lots and lots of specific steps. It wasn't one command, it was a whole back and forth, a collaboration between a skilled person and a powerful tool. So the takeaway here is that Clawdbot is a massive force multiplier if you know what you're doing. But it's not a magic wand that just works on its own.
And that brings us to level 2. These are the really powerful automations, the kind of stuff that can genuinely change how you work. But they do require a bit of setup, some technical know-how, and a really clear idea of what you're trying to accomplish.
The possibilities here are just amazing. You've got developers using it to automate the boring parts of their jobs, like checking on code tests. You could create a custom focus mode that, with one text, dims your smart lights, turns off notifications, and starts your work playlist. Or you could have it watch a website for a price drop on something you want and send you an alert the second it happens. This is where Clawdbot stops being a neat tool and starts feeling like a true, personalized assistant.
So, with all this amazing power, there is a little bit of complexity. So the big question is, should you jump in? Let's break down the trade-offs to help you figure out if Clawdbot is really the right fit for you. This table really just sums it all up. If your number one priority is total privacy and you need an AI that can actually do things on your computer, Clawdbot is the clear winner, no contest. But that power comes at a cost, and that cost is setup time. Cloud AIs are instant. You just log in and go. Clawdbot takes some configuration. It's really built for developers, for tinkerers, for power users who want infinite control more than they want plug-and-play simplicity. So to put it really simply, Clawdbot is for you if these things right here sound like you. If you're the kind of person who gets excited when you hear you have total control over your data, or if you've got these little repetitive tasks on your computer that you've always dreamed of automating, well, then you are exactly who this was built for. And that really leaves us with this one last big question. As AI gets more and more woven into our daily lives, this debate over where it should live, on some giant corporate server out in the cloud, or right here on our own machines, under our control, is only going to get more and more important. Tools like Clawdbot aren't just a different product. They really represent a totally different philosophy for how we build our digital future.
Have you ever felt like your AI assistant has the memory of a goldfish? Yeah, you are definitely not alone. Today, we're going to talk about a whole new kind of AI, one that doesn't just chat with you, it actually does things. And the wildest part, it can live right on your very own computer.
So here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll get into the forgetful AI problem, which I'm sure you've run into. Then we'll meet its solution, the AI agent. We'll check out a real-world example, a kind of local butler for your computer, weigh the real price of privacy, and then we'll look at where all this is headed. Okay, let's just dive right into the thing that drives us all crazy about a lot of the AI assistants we use today. It really all comes down to one single question. Right? It's like you're having a great conversation, and then 5 minutes later, it has no idea who you are or what you were talking about. And here's the thing, it's not a bug. It's actually a core limitation of how they're designed, that just don't have long-term memory. I mean, just look at this. It's a perfect example. On Monday, you're super clear, I'm a vegetarian, no dairy please. Then on Tuesday, it cheerfully suggests chicken Alfredo. The AI isn't trying to be a jerk. It has literally completely forgotten that earlier conversation. This memory gap, well, it makes it less of an assistant and more of a nuisance. So what's the technical reason for this? Well, as a research paper from Memo points out, the culprit is something called a fixed context window. The easiest way to think about it is like the AI's memory is a tiny little whiteboard. As you talk, new stuff gets written on it, but to make space, the old stuff has to be wiped away. And once it's erased, it is gone forever. It makes it impossible for the AI to build up any real, long-term understanding of. So if the problem is a fundamentally bad memory, what's the answer? Well, we're starting to see this really fascinating evolution away from simple chatbots and towards something way more powerful, the AI agent. And this right here is the absolute key difference. It's a huge shift from being just a conversational partner to being more like a digital coworker. See, an agent doesn't just tell you it's going to rain. It could proactively reschedule your outdoor meetings because it's going to rain. It actually takes action.
This chart just lays it out perfectly. A chatbot? It's basically a talking encyclopedia that lives in the cloud. An agent, though, that's a worker that lives on your machine. It has access to your tools, it has a persistent memory, and it has the authority to get things done. That's a game-changing difference.
And this isn't some far-off science fiction either. We're talking about giving an AI the permission it needs to actually go into your apps and clear your inbox for you, organize your calendar, or even check you in for a flight automatically. It's a massive leap from just asking it trivia questions.
Okay, so let's make this a little more concrete. There's this really cool open source project out there called Clawdbot, and it is a perfect example of this new, local-first way of thinking about AI.
Here's the best way to think about it. Using a cloud-based AI is kind of like calling a customer service center. You get an answer, but they don't really know you. A local agent, like Clawdbot, on the other hand, is like having a personal butler who lives in your house, knows your preferences, and, most importantly, never ever shares your secrets. Your data stays with you. Period.
Now, for that butler to be any good, it needs a system to remember things, right? This diagram might look a little complicated, but the idea behind it is actually pretty simple. It's constantly listening, pulling out the key facts from your conversations, and then storing them in a dedicated memory bank. Just like a real butler, it actually learns what you like over time.
So here's a little peek under the hood of how Clawdbot works. You talk to it through your normal apps like WhatsApp or Slack. Those are the channels. The gateway is the brain, and it lives on your machine. Nodes are like its hands, giving it access to your files or your web browser. And skills are the specific tools it knows how to use. The key here is that you're in complete control of every single piece.
But you probably knew there was a but coming. Having your own personal AI butler isn't exactly a free lunch.
there are some pretty significant trade-offs you have to make to run all this by yourself.
And we're seeing this play out in the real world. This user over on the local llama subreddit, which is a whole community of people running these models at home, points out the single biggest hurdle: speed. Just trying to feed the AI a big document, say the entire history of a project, can bring a powerful machine to a screeching halt.
To put some numbers on that, tokens per second is pretty much how fast the AI can speak. This user saw their speed drop from a pretty decent 30 tokens per second all the way down to a painfully slow 6. That's the difference between having a normal conversation and, watching paint dry.
So, you might be asking, with that kind of slowdown, why on earth would anyone do this? Well, this comment right here just says it all. For a lot of folks, the idea of sending every private email, every sensitive document to a giant tech company's server is an absolute deal breaker. Privacy is everything.
So when you boil it all down, this is the fundamental choice you're facing. The cloud gives you incredible speed, and you just pay for what you use, but you're handing over your data. A local model, on the other hand, gives you absolute privacy and control, but it comes at the cost of speed and a pretty big upfront investment in computer hardware.
And all of this leads us to the biggest question for the future of truly personal AI: what do we actually value more?
Because really, for an AI to become a true partner in our lives, it all comes back to solving that memory problem. Without a solid system like this to help it remember and learn, an AI agent will always just be a forgetful tool, not a collaborator you can actually rely on.
And so, that's the choice that's really going to define this next era of computing. Is your next assistant going to be a super convenient, super powerful tool that's owned by a corporation and lives in the cloud? Or is it going to be a completely private, totally secure agent that lives right here on your own machine? There's no single right answer, but the one we all choose is going to shape our digital lives for years to come.
So have you ever wished you could hire an employee that works 24/7, never sleeps, remembers everything you tell it, and, get this, costs less than your monthly coffee budget? Well, that's exactly the promise of a tool that's been blowing up online, and it's called Clawdbot. In this explainer, we're going to break down what it is, how it works, and whether it can really be your first and most tireless digital employee. And this quote right here, from a user on X, it just nails it. We're not talking about another chatbot you open in a browser tab. No way. Clawdbot represents a massive shift, a change in how we think about AI. It's about turning it from a passive tool into a proactive, autonomous teammate. So what really makes this thing different from the AIs we're all used to? Honestly, it boils down to one simple word: action. We're moving past an AI that just answers questions to one that actually does things. A true digital employee that can get stuff done in the real world for you. Okay, so at its core, Clawdbot is your own personal AI agent. And the keywords you need to hear are self-hosted and runs on your computer. What does that mean? It means your data stays with you. That gives you a level of privacy and control that, cloud services just can't match. And because it can control your software, it has, digital hands to actually do the work. This chart just lays it all out perfectly. Standard AIs, they're passive. You have to poke them to do anything. They're forgetful. Every single chat is a blank slate, and all your data is sitting on their servers. Clawdbot just flips the whole script. It's proactive. It'll send you a morning briefing without you even asking. It remembers stuff you told it weeks ago. And it's local first, which means you're in complete control of your data.
All right, that all sounds amazing, right? But how does it actually pull this off? It might seem super complex, but the way it's built is, it's surprisingly elegant. Let's break it down into simple terms.
I absolutely love this analogy because it's just so perfect. Imagine you get the incredible conversational smarts of a top-tier language model, but you combine it with the practical, task-doing skills of a real-life personal assistant. It's literally the best of both worlds. So the whole system really works in 3 simple parts. First, you've got the gateway. Think of it like a switchboard. It connects to the chat apps you already use, like WhatsApp or Telegram, so you don't need yet another app on your phone. Second is the brain, which can be whatever AI model you prefer, like Claude or GPT-4. And third, and this is the magic part, are the skills. These are the hands that let it manage your files, browse the web, or even run code. Now, let's get to the heart of it. The reason this matters so much, especially for entrepreneurs and solo business owners. How does this thing actually become your first tireless digital employee that saves you time and, let's be honest, makes you money? Just look at this slide. This is the financial game changer right here. For a solopreneur, hiring a human virtual assistant is a huge expense. We're talking over $1,000 a month, easily, for just standard business hours. Clawdbot works 24/7 without a break for just the cost of its API fees, which can be as low as $20 a month. This isn't just about saving a few bucks. It's about getting a level of leverage that was, until now, completely out of reach for a one-person shop. And that leverage creates real, tangible value. We're not talking about just answering questions. As you can see here, this is about taking on tasks that directly boost your bottom line. Automating your market research? That's an hour of your life back, every single day. Triaging your inbox? That frees up your morning for the stuff that actually matters. And automating lead generation? Come on, that's a sales machine that's creating revenue opportunities while you focus on the big picture. And the list of what your new digital employee can handle just goes on and on. From proactive morning briefings that get your day started right, to automating complex code reviews for developers, to transcribing your content. Every single one of these bullet points represents hours and hours of human work that you can now just delegate to your 24/7 AI assistant. You might think that sounds like a crazy exaggeration, but this quote from a real user, it just perfectly sums up the potential impact. When you start offloading enough of those critical repetitive tasks to an autonomous agent, it really can feel like it's running the day-to-day operations of your business for you. Okay, so with all this incredible potential, there's obviously a ton of hype. So let's get real for a minute. To figure out if this is actually right for you, we have to separate the hype from the reality. This thing is not a magic wand, and it's so important to understand the challenges. This is the question on everybody's mind, right? And for good reason. Anytime a piece of tech seems this revolutionary, you've got to wonder, what's the catch? And yeah, there are a few. This table does a fantastic job of setting expectations. So right out of the box, Clawdbot is pretty great at stuff like managing files and doing basic research. But all those mind-blowing demos you see online, like plugging into your company's CRM or posting to all your social media accounts, that requires a serious custom setup, getting API access, and, a real investment of your time. And yup, here are the other catches. The setup time really depends on how tech-savvy you are. And while you don't need some brand new, expensive machine, you do need some dedicated hardware. Your API costs are going to depend entirely on how much you use it. And this last one is so important. Because this tool has deep access to your computer, you are 100% responsible for its security. And that right there is the perfect summary. The potential is absolutely revolutionary. That's not an exaggeration at all. But you have to see it as a professional tool that demands a real investment of time and learning to get the most out of it. It is definitely not some simple plug-and-play app. So with that reality check in our back pocket, let's zoom out. Clawdbot isn't just one cool tool. It's really a signpost pointing us toward the future of our relationship with AI. I mean, just look at how fast things are moving. A few years ago, AI writing text was mind-blowing. Then came images. Then it started writing code. Clawdbot represents that next giant leap. AI that doesn't just suggest or create, but actually autonomously executes tasks for you. And this is the bigger picture. We're seeing the start of a huge move away from relying only on these giant centralized AI companies. This is a shift toward a future where each of us has our own personal AI infrastructure, one that we control, that lives on our own hardware, and that works only for us. And that brings us to our final thought, and it's a big one. Right now, setting up just one digital employee is a total game changer for an individual. But what does the world look like when an entrepreneur can deploy a team of 100 or even 1,000 specialized AI agents, all working 24/7 to build their business? That's the future we're stepping in. So there's this new open source project that's just blowing up online. It's called Clawdbot, and its whole thing is pretty simple. It's the AI that actually does things. So let's get into what that really means. You've probably seen the hype, right? The tweets, the posts, they're everywhere with these absolutely wild claims. People are talking about it like it's this magic button that can clear out your inbox overnight or build a website from a single text message. But come on, is it really magic? Or is it just another overhyped tool? Well, the truth is actually way more interesting. Let's peel back the layers, separate what's real from what's just noise, and see what Clawdbot is really all about. Okay, so to really get what Clawdbot is trying to do, you first have to understand the main problem it's trying to solve. And it's all built on this one super powerful idea. What if you could give your AI assistant hands? Think about it. Right now, we have these incredibly powerful AIs. They can write code, they can summarize dense articles, they can plan out entire projects.
But let's be real, most of the time they're just trapped, stuck inside a browser tab, waiting for us to copy and paste stuff in and out. They can think, but they can't actually do anything. So, what is Clawdbot? Well, the best way to think about it is as a self-hosted AI agent that finally breaks out of the browser. It literally connects the brain of an AI, like Claude or GPT, directly to the apps you use every day, letting it take real action right on your computer. So, how in the world does it actually pull this off? Well, the secret sauce is in a fundamental shift in how we think about AI, moving away from the cloud and bringing the AI right back home to your own machine. You know, it really just comes down to one core difference: renting versus owning. With pretty much every cloud AI out there, you're just renting time on someone else's giant servers. But with Clawdbot's local-first model, the AI runs on your hardware. That means you own the data, you control who has access, and you decide exactly what it connects to. And that shift, it changes absolutely everything. The way it's built is actually a pretty simple three-part system. First, you've got the gateway. That's the central switchboard that lives on your computer. Second are the channels. That's just your messaging apps, like WhatsApp or Telegram. And third are the skills. These are all the tools the AI can use, like browsing the web or managing your files. You just text it like a friend, and it gets to work. Simple as that. Okay, time for a little reality check. With all the hype flying around, it's really easy to think Clawdbot is some kind of magic wand. It's not. It's a powerful machine, for sure. But like any machine, you got to understand what it can and can't do right out of the box. And this is the part that nobody seems to explain clearly. Some things, they work almost instantly. You can ask it to organize your downloads folder or summarize a few articles, and poof, it just works. But the really impressive stuff, like automating your entire email inbox or integrating with some custom app you use, that takes a little bit of setup, some clear instructions, and yeah, sometimes a little technical know-how. And hey, let's talk about the cost. While the Clawdbot software itself is totally free and open source, running it isn't entirely free. You still have to pay for the AI model's API usage. So for light use, you might be looking at maybe $10 to $30 a month. But if you have it running complex tasks 24/7, those costs can definitely climb. It's just something you have to keep an eye on, especially when you're just getting started. So after that little reality check, you might be wondering, what's the big deal then? Well, even with the setup it needs, Clawdbot has some genuine superpowers that make it absolutely revolutionary. These are the things that set it apart from pretty much every other AI tool out there. First up is what's called persistent memory. You know how most AIs have the memory of a goldfish? They forget who you are the second you close the chat window. Well, Clawdbot remembers. It learns your preferences, it remembers the context of your projects, and it can recall details from conversations you had weeks ago. It starts to feel less like a tool and a lot more like a real assistant who actually knows you. Okay, this one is a total game changer. Clawdbot can be proactive. You can actually set it up to send you a morning briefing with your schedule, alert you when a website you're tracking changes, or remind you about a deadline without you even asking. It completely shifts from being a reactive tool to a proactive teammate. And of course, there's the big one, privacy. Because it runs on your own machine, your data stays yours, period. Your private conversations, your files, your sensitive information, none of it ever leaves your computer unless you explicitly tell it to. For anyone dealing with private data, this is a massive, massive advantage. And finally, its potential is just limitless. Through an open source system of skills, Clawdbot can learn to do pretty much anything. The community is constantly building new integrations, and if a tool you need doesn't exist yet, you can literally ask the AI to help you build it yourself. This means its capabilities just keep on growing. You know, when you really step back, Clawdbot isn't just a single product. It's actually part of a much bigger trend in software. It's a glimpse into a future where our digital tools are way more personal, way more private, and way more powerful. This whole thing is part of what people are starting to call the local-first movement. As AI gets deeper and deeper into our lives, more and more of us are demanding control over our own data and freedom from paying endless subscriptions. This movement is all about truly owning your digital tools, and Clawdbot is right at the forefront of it. So who should actually use this thing? Well, if you're a developer, a power user who loves to tinker, or someone who really, really values data privacy, then Clawdbot is absolutely for you. But if you want something that just works in 30 seconds with zero setup, you're probably better off sticking with the cloud-based tools for now. It's incredibly powerful, but it's not for everyone.
And all of this leaves us with one final huge question. The barriers are starting to fall. So once your AI isn't trapped in a browser anymore, once it can seamlessly work with all of your files, your apps, and your tools just by asking, what's the very first thing you're going to build with it? So have you seen all the buzz online about this AI that's supposedly automating entire workflows, clearing out inboxes overnight, and get this, even writing its own code? It's called Clawdbot, and it is generating a massive, massive wave of hype. Today, we're going to cut through all that noise and explain what this tool actually is, how people are really using it, and what it takes to get these incredible results. Okay, let's just dive right into the claims that have everyone talking. We're seeing posts just like this one everywhere. I mean, imagine waking up to a perfectly clean inbox. That's the dream for most of us, right? Well, users are claiming Clawdbot is making it a reality. And the claims? They just keep getting bigger. We're not talking about small, simple tasks anymore. People are reporting these huge, almost unbelievable jumps in productivity, the kind of thing that could completely change how they work every single day. Now, this quote from a user named Aaron Eng, this is where things get really wild. This isn't just about sorting files. This is the claim that Clawdbot can handle complex software development all by itself. We're talking taking an idea and turning it into a live feature with almost no human help. Crazy. So all of this brings us to the big question we're going to dig into in this explainer. Are these claims for real? Is this the start of truly autonomous AI agents, or is it just another overhyped tech trend? Let's find out. To really get what Clawdbot is, you have to realize it's a completely different kind of AI. This is not just another chatbot you talk to in your browser. No, it's an agent that actively gets to work inside your digital world. And here it is, the core concept. Clawdbot is software that you install and run on your own machine. By being self-hosted, it literally lives inside your digital environment. And that gives it a level of access and capability that cloud-based tools just can't have, mostly for, security reasons. This chart really nails the key differences. So standard chatbots, they store your data on their servers. Clawdbot? It keeps everything on your machine, which is a huge win for privacy. It also has a persistent memory, so it learns from you over weeks, not just for one conversation. But honestly, here's the real game changer. It can be proactive and message you first, and it can access your files and your apps directly. So the crucial thing here is to understand the reality behind all that hype. And it really comes down to knowing that Clawdbot operates on two totally different levels. There's stuff it can do instantly, right out of the box, and then there are the powerful automations that you actually have to build yourself. And here, you can really see the two sides of Clawdbot. On one side, you've got the instant magic. You can ask it to, say, organize your downloads folder or summarize an article right away. But on the other side, you've got built power. And this is where those amazing headline-grabbing achievements live. Things like automated email management or a personalized morning briefing. These don't just happen. You have to actually invest the time to set up the workflows and give the AI very specific instructions. So let's take a look at how people are actually using this built power. Because these real-world workflows, this is what's getting everyone so excited. Okay, check this out. For developers, this is an incredible example. A user named Hickvac set up a workflow to manage their whole development setup with simple commands right from their phone. This isn't just a chat. This is truly hands-free, autonomous DevOps. It's amazing. So how's it work? Well, first, the user has to grant Clawdbot secure, permission-based access. Then, they just send a simple command in plain English. The agent takes that, translates it into all the complex technical steps, runs everything, and then reports back. The human gives the intent, the AI handles the execution. But hey, it's not just for developers. Here is a super powerful productivity example. This user completely automated their morning routine. By building an agent to sort and prioritize their inbox, they're saving almost an hour every single day. And this really shows how that proactive heartbeat feature works. The user schedules a task to run automatically, then the agent connects to different services, in this case Gmail and Google Calendar, pulls in all that data, synthesizes it into a useful summary, and then pushes that report right to the user in their favorite chat app. It's just working for you in the background. And this is a huge part of the appeal. As this user, Mashig25, points out, it's not just about what Clawdbot does, but how it feels. That proactive touch, That sense that you have an assistant actually working for you is a completely different experience from a chatbot that just sits there waiting for your next command. But to give you the full, honest picture, we have to talk about what's not always mentioned in those viral tweets. This incredible power, well, it comes with its own set of costs and responsibilities. First up, the money. While the Clawdbot software itself is free, it relies on these really powerful AI models like Claude or GPT-4 to do its thinking. You have to pay for access to those models through their API, which is kind of like a metered utility. For a moderate user, you're looking at maybe $15 to $30 a month, but heavy users could be paying way more. But honestly, beyond the money, the real cost is your time and your attention. Getting started is not instant, and this is so critical. Because you are giving an AI deep access to your computer, you are 100% responsible for its security. You manage the permissions, you control what it can and can't do, and you have to maintain it. So really, it all boils down to this one fundamental trade-off. Clawdbot gives you this unparalleled power, control, and privacy, because everything is running on your machine. But in exchange, you take on all the complexity and all the responsibility of managing it yourself. And that brings us to the final verdict. Should you jump on the hype train and try Clawdbot for yourself? Well, the choice really comes down to who you are. If you're a developer or a power user who just loves to tinker and you demand absolute control over your data, then yeah, Clawdbot could be a total game changer for you. But if you just want a simple chatbot that works out of the box with zero management, you'll be a whole lot happier with the polished cloud-based tools that are out there.
Ultimately, whether you use it or not, Clawdbot is really important. It's a preview of a future where our AI assistants don't just sit there and answer our questions, but they actively go out and get things done for us.
And that leaves us with this one big provocative thought. As these kinds of agent-like AI tools become more and more common, the big distinction won't be about which model is smarter, but which one can do more. The choice is going to be between an AI that can just talk and one that can truly act on your behalf. You know, most AI assistants we use every day are fantastic at talking, but what if they could actually do things? That's the whole idea behind Clawdbot, a tool that's getting a ton of buzz because it's an AI that doesn't just chat, it acts. Okay, let's get into it. I mean, just listen to this. This is a real claim from a user. It sounds pretty wild, right? But it perfectly captures what Clawdbot is all about. This isn't just about asking a question and getting some text back. We're talking about handing off real, actual tasks to an AI that can get them done on your computer no matter where you are. And that really gets to the heart of the problem Clawdbot wants to solve. See, conventional AI assistants, they're passive. They live up in the cloud, they wait for you to type something, and they can't touch your local files or apps. They're basically brains without any hands. So what is Clawdbot exactly? Well, to put it simply, it's your own personal AI assistant that you host yourself. It runs on your own hardware, and you talk to it through apps you're already using, like WhatsApp or Telegram. The key here, the absolute game changer, is that it has access to your system to do real work. Now, this sounds incredibly powerful, and it is. So how does it all fit together? Let's pop the hood for a second and look at the simple but frankly brilliant way this thing is built. Everything, and I mean everything, starts with this local first philosophy. Unlike cloud AI, where your data is being processed and stored on some company's servers, Clawdbot keeps it all on your machine. Your chats, your files, your secret API keys, it is all under your LockM key. For anyone who cares about privacy, this is a massive deal. The whole system works in 3 simple layers. First, you've got the channels. That's how you talk to it, maybe through Telegram. That message hits the gateway, which is the engine running on your machine. The gateway then talks to the LLM brain, a model like Claude or GPT-4, to figure out what to do. And then it makes it happen right there on your local system. And this is where you really see the difference. It's like night and day. With Clawdbot, your data is local, it has full system access, it can actually message you first with updates, and it's totally customizable. Cloud AI is the exact opposite on every single one of those points. It really shows you the shift in control from some big company to you. Okay, enough of the technical breakdown. Let's get to the really exciting part. What can you actually do with this thing? We're going to look at how it's completely changing the game for individuals and for entire teams. First up, let's talk about the solo power user. This is all about automating those tedious, annoying parts of your personal and professional life so you can focus on what actually matters. I mean, just think about it. You could be on the bus and just tell your AI to clean up your inbox, and it's done. Or create a focus mode that dims your smart lights and plays some ambient music with a single command. For developers, this is like having a junior dev on call 24/7. And for research, it's like having your own autonomous analyst scraping websites and giving you summaries. And look, this isn't some fantasy. This is a real-world example from a user. Instead of them having to manually run scripts and sift through a bunch of junk, Clawdbot does it all while they sleep. They just wake up to the important stuff. That's proactive automation right there. Okay, so that's the solo user. But what happens when you scale this up for a whole team? Well, this is where Clawdbot goes from being a personal assistant to a full-on autonomous team member. This is where things get really wild. Seriously, the enterprise use cases are just mind-blowing. Imagine giving your AI access to your project backlog and just telling it, go work on these tasks. It can literally pick a task, write the code, and move the ticket on the Kanban board to done. Or how about automated reporting? It can scan everyone's calendars and Git commits to build a weekly progress report automatically. And for new hires, feed it your entire company's Slack history to create a private, searchable knowledge base. It's next-level stuff. All right, I know what you're thinking. This all sounds incredible, almost too good to be true. But giving an AI this much access to your systems, well, it's not something you should take lightly. You know the saying, with great power comes great responsibility. So that brings us to the big question, right? What's the catch? To unlock all this power, you've got to manage the two biggest hurdles, security and cost. The potential is huge, for sure, but the risks are just as real if you're not careful. Let's be crystal clear. Security is paramount. You are handing an AI the keys to your digital kingdom. The #1 rule is to run it with the absolute minimum privileges it needs, never, ever as an administrator. You have to check the code for any community skills before you install them, and you need to lock down who can even talk to it. You're in control, which also means you are the security team. So, what about the cost? Is it going to break the bank? Well, the software itself is totally free and open source, which is amazing. But you need some hardware to run it on, which could be a cheap cloud server for maybe $5 a month. The real variable, the one you have to watch, is the LLM API fees. Depending on how much you use it, you could be looking at anywhere from $20 to well over $100 a month. So after weighing this incredible power against the very real responsibilities, what's the big takeaway? Who is this actually for, and what does it tell us about where AI is heading? This table is probably the best way to figure out if Clawdbot is right for you. If you find yourself nodding along with the left side, you value privacy, you need to automate things on your actual computer, you like to tinker, then yeah, Clawdbot is for you. But if you're more on the right side, you just want convenience, a quick answer, a polished product, then a conventional cloud AI is probably still the way to go. So who's the ideal user? We're talking developers, tech-savvy power users, and anyone who really wants to build and own their AI assistant. It's for the builders. Now, who should probably skip it? Anyone who just wants a simple chatbot and doesn't want the headache of managing their own setup. And hey, that's totally fine. It's a powerful tool, but it's definitely not for everyone. And that leaves us with one final thought, one that kind of hangs in the air after all of this. In a world where all our data is constantly flying up to the cloud, Clawdbot asks a really fundamental question about ownership. Is your AI assistant truly yours if it lives on someone else's computer? It's definitely something to think about. You've probably seen that little Lobster icon floating around. Or maybe you've heard the wild rumors about Mac Minis suddenly selling out everywhere. Well, the reason for all that buzz is a project called Clawdbot. And today, we're going to break down exactly how this open source project is completely changing the way we think about personal AI. I mean, think about the AI tools you use right now. You ask them a question, they give you an answer, you give them a prompt, they generate some text, but they just kind of sit there waiting for you. They don't remember you, they don't learn about you, and they certainly can't actually do anything for you. What if all of that is about to change? And this really lays out the whole idea perfectly. On one side, you've got the standard cloud AI we all know. It forgets you the second you close the tab, it can't take any real action, and it all lives on some company's servers. But Clawdbot? It's the complete opposite. It remembers you, it actually does things, and this is the big one, it lives right there on your computer. It's a massive shift. All right, so let's get into it. Meet Clawdbot. This is the project causing all this commotion. And it's so much more than just another chatbot. People are calling it the first truly useful personal AI agent.
And the growth has just been insane. We're talking over 30,000 stars on GitHub, which, if you don't know, is a huge deal in the developer community. It's basically a massive vote of confidence. This isn't some niche little tool. It's a full-blown movement.
So what is it really? Well, you can think of Clawdbot as an AI agent that you host yourself. It has a memory, so it actually gets to know you over time. But the absolute game changer is that it has hands. It has the ability to control the software on your computer, open your apps, and get real work done. You gotta love this analogy from someone in the community because it just nails it. Imagine the incredible language power of something like ChatGPT combined with the practical, get-it-done skills of a real personal assistant. That's Clawdbot.
So, who's the brain behind this whole thing? It was created by Peter Steinberger, a super well-respected developer who actually came out of retirement just to build it. And a huge part of its success is that he made it completely open source, which has created this amazing, transparent community around it.
Okay, but how does it actually work? Let's pop the hood and look at the architecture that gives this AI both a brain and hands. It's actually a really elegant, simple loop. First, you just send a message, right from an app you already use like WhatsApp or Telegram. Then, a little process on your computer called the gateway grabs that message. It sends your request off to an AI brain, and you get to choose which one, like GPT-4 or Claude, to figure out a plan. And then, this is the magic part, it takes that plan and turns it into real commands that run on your computer.
And this whole system is built on some really smart principles. First, it's local first, which means all your data stays with you. Second, it's flexible. You're not locked into any single AI model. Third, it's got these extensible skills. And finally, it's private by design. Your stuff stays your stuff.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. This table just lays it all out. Look at the difference in system access. Clawdbot has full access to your computer, your files, your command line. The cloud AIs have none. And proactivity. Clawdbot can actually message you first to give you updates. It's a completely different league from the passive, walled-off tools we're all used to.
Okay, so that's the tech, but let's get to the fun part. What does this power actually look like in the real world? These aren't just ideas. These are actual things that people are doing with Clawdbot right now.
And the reactions from the top minds in AI tell you everything you need to know. When Andre Karpathy, the former head of AI at Tesla, calls your project hilarious, troubling, and awesome, you know you've built something that's making people sit up and pay attention. And it gets even crazier. This user isn't just automating a few tasks. They're saying, it's running my company. I mean, think about that. For some people, this is becoming the core operating system for their entire business. Okay, this one is just wild. The AI didn't just fail and give an error. It realized what it needed, an API key. So it opened a web browser by itself, navigated through the Google Cloud interface, and got itself the key it needed to finish the job. That's not just automation, that's genuine problem solving. And this just shows you how accessible this power is. Here's a developer building and launching a whole new website just by sending text messages from his phone. He's not even at a computer. That is a whole new level of freedom.
So here's the bottom line. When you combine all these things, proactivity, memory, real system access, and even the ability for the AI to teach itself new skills, what you have is no longer just a tool. You have a teammate, a digital partner that works with you.
Okay, let's zoom out for a second. The success of a project like Clawdbot isn't just about one piece of cool software. It's pointing to a much, much bigger change in how we're all going to use computers. For decades, we've seen things like Jarvis from Iron Man and thought of it as pure science fiction, a truly personal AI assistant. But what people are realizing is that the core of that idea, it's not sci-fi anymore, as this person says. It already exists. And Clawdbot is really the poster child for this growing local-first movement. It's a pushback against everything having to live in the cloud. It's about bringing back user ownership, privacy, and real control over our own data and our own machines. And this really gets to the heart of it all. For our entire lives, we've had to learn how to use software. We've had to adapt to the computer. We are now at the very beginning of a new era, one where the software finally starts learning how to adapt to us. So I'll leave you with this question to chew on. As these powerful AI agents get better and better, is it possible that the future of truly personal AI isn't going to be in some massive, faraway data center, but right here, running on the computer that you actually own and control?
Okay, so something pretty wild happened in the tech world just a few weeks back. This new open source tool called Clawdbot basically just showed up, and the internet, well, it completely lost its mind. It was this huge, overnight explosion of excitement that seemed to pop up out of nowhere.
And this quote right here from the publication 36K, it just nails how fast this whole thing happened. This wasn't some slow buildup. It was, like they said, an explosion. The entire tech community were talking developers, Google execs, you name it. They all seemed to go crazy for it, all at the same time.
And if you want a number to really wrap your head around the hype, look at this. In just 24 hours, the project's GitHub page got over 20,000 stars. Now, just so you know, that is an insane amount of attention for any open source project, especially one that nobody had even heard of just a few days before.
And this wasn't just online hype, it actually spilled over into the real world. People literally started buying up Mac Minis, making them hard to find, all because they wanted to build their own personal AI assistant. So it all leads to the big question, what on earth is Clawdbot, and why did it cause such a massive stir?
All right, let's break down what's actually going on behind all this hype. At its heart, people are calling Clawdbot an AI with hands, which is a great way to put it. It's an AI that doesn't just talk to you, it actually does stuff.
So here's what makes it so different. It's a self-hosted AI agent. Instead of living on some company's cloud servers like ChatGPT does, this thing runs on your computer. That means it can access your local files, your programs, your entire system. And you talk to it through apps you already use, like WhatsApp or Discord. It's an AI that literally lives on your machine.
And when you look under the hood, the architecture is actually pretty simple. Think of it in 4 parts. You've got the gateway, that's the front door that connects to your messaging apps. Then there's the agent, which is the brain, powered by a big AI model. Then you have the skills, which are its superpowers, letting it do things like browse the web or run code. And finally, the memory, which is like its notebook, helping it remember who you are and what you've talked about.
Okay, so that's the what, but the what is only half the story. The real reason this thing blew up is the why. I mean, the stuff people are already doing with this is just incredible. Let's take a look at a few examples.
You gotta hear this one. A user on Reddit was talking about how they used Clawdbot to launch a website. They just told it what they wanted, and the bot wrote all the code, pushed it live to a hosting service, and then sent them the link. The entire thing, start to finish, took about 10 minutes. Absolutely wild.
And for the more tech-savvy folks out there, it gets even crazier. This person connected Clawdbot to their entire home server setup, this complex web of machines, and now uses it to help debug, fix, and upgrade everything. It's basically like having a personal on-call IT assistant 24/7, but you don't have to be a coder to get the value here. This example, this one might be the most mind-blowing of all. Someone actually got the bot to handle negotiating to buy a car. It talked to multiple dealerships for them across web chats, email, and iMessage, and it ended up saving them $4,200. That's real money, real-world impact.
It all sounds a little too good to be true, doesn't it? I mean, a free, all-powerful AI Jarvis that can build websites and save you thousands of dollars? So what's the catch? Well, as more people started using it, they started finding some pretty big hidden costs and risks.
And this is where we get to the real price tag. The Clawdbot software itself? Yeah, that's free. But the software is useless without an AI brain, one of those big, powerful language models. And getting access to those models costs money. Users are reporting that they're spending anywhere from $20 to over $200 a month just for that AI subscription.
And what about that whole trend of people buying Mac Minis? Yeah, turns out that was mostly just hype. You really don't need a $600 computer. A lot of people are running Clawdbot just fine on a cheap $5 a month cloud server, or even just an old dusty laptop they had sitting in a closet. But beyond the money, there's a much bigger, and frankly, scarier issue: security. This quote from a security professional on Reddit just hits the nail on the head. Giving an AI agent total, unrestricted access to your personal computer, all your files, your passwords, everything, is a huge risk. It creates this massive target for anyone who might want to exploit it.
But honestly, the biggest problem, the real Achilles heel of this whole system, isn't even Clawdbot itself. It's the AI brain that's supposed to be powering it. See, Clawdbot is just the hands. The intelligence comes from somewhere else. And right now, that foundation is showing some really serious cracks.
You see, when the AI model that powers a lot of these bots, Claude's Opus, first launched, people were raving. They said it was like pair programming with a mid-level engineer. But now, fast forward to today, and the story from those same users is completely different. They're describing an AI that forgets what you were talking about, mixes up files, and just fails at things it used to do easily.
And the complaints are just everywhere. A huge report from users broke down all the problems, and it's a lot. We're talking about brutal usage limits that just cut you off mid-task, constant server errors, a noticeable drop in the model's quality, and this weird thing called compaction failures, where the AI basically just short-circuits and forgets the entire conversation. And this right here just shows you how bad things have gotten. Imagine paying for the most expensive Mac subscription and you get locked out after sending just 2 to 5 messages. As this user said, it basically makes the subscription you're paying for completely meaningless. You can't get any real work done.
So, as you can imagine, the feeling in the community is not great. You see words like bait and switch and unusable being thrown around all the time. There's this deep sense of frustration, almost betrayal, from people who feel like they paid for this amazing tool that is now just getting worse and worse.
So, after all that, where do we land? Is Clawdbot really the future of personal AI? Or is it just this brilliant idea that's built on a foundation of sand? Let's just quickly summarize the main takeaways here.
Okay, so here's the breakdown. First, no doubt about it, Clawdbot gives us this incredible vision for what a personal AI could be, an assistant that can actually get stuff done. But that vision is built on a very fragile and pretty expensive foundation. The AI brains that power it are, right now, often buggy and unreliable. And finally, getting it all set up and making it secure takes a lot of technical skill, which means it's not really for everybody, at least not yet.
In the end, Clawdbot has given us this incredible sneak peek into the future, but it's also shined a huge spotlight on the massive challenges we still need to overcome. And that leaves us with the big question: is having a truly personal AI assistant worth the high monthly cost, the very real security risks, and all the frustration that comes with its unreliable brain? Right now, the answer to that is anything but clear.
All right, let's talk about this little lobster icon that has been absolutely everywhere online. It's called Clawdbot, and people are saying it's a complete game changer for how we think about and use AI.
I mean, if you've been on the internet at all in the past few weeks, you've seen it. The screenshots, the hype, these incredible claims that the future is already here, and it's running on people's laptops. The buzz is just impossible to ignore. And we're not talking about small claims. People are literally comparing this thing to Jarvis, Tony Stark's AI. They're saying that science fiction dream is already a reality. And then you see quotes like this, people saying it's powerful enough to run their entire company. So this is way more than just another clever chatbot. This is being used for some seriously heavy lifting.
And it's not just random users either. When someone like Andrej Karpathy, the former head of AI at Tesla, chimes in, you know something big is going on. So, okay, let's dive in. What is Clawdbot, actually?
So let's cut through all that noise and get right to the heart of what this thing really is. Because how it's designed is fundamentally different from the AI most of us are used to. Okay, so here's the simplest way to put it. Clawdbot is a personal AI agent that you install and run on your own computer. And that's the most important part. It's not a website you go to, it's a program that lives on your machine, which gives it some pretty unique powers.
This table really just nails the difference. Think about it. A standard AI like ChatGPT forgets everything about you the moment you close the browser tab. Clawdbot, it remembers conversations you had weeks ago. Standard AI just sits there waiting for you. Clawdbot can actually be proactive, like sending you a morning update without you even asking. And maybe the biggest deal of all, your data stays on your device, and it can control your whole computer, not just a little sandbox in a web browser.
And all of that brings us to the core idea here, which the community has summed up perfectly. They call it Claude with hands. It doesn't just talk about doing things, it actually does them.
So what does doing really mean? Well, it means it can remember your preferences over the long haul. It can proactively check your email and ping you about something important. It can literally run code, move files around, and take control of your web browser. And the cool part is you can talk to it from the apps you're already using every day, like WhatsApp or Slack.
Let's just walk through a quick example. You could give it a pretty complex task, like this one. Now, instead of just spitting out a bunch of links, it actually goes out, does the Google searches, reads the articles, figures out what's important, and then builds a whole document for you. This is what's so powerful. A research task that could take you hours is just done in the background while you do something else.
Okay, all of that sounds absolutely incredible, but we've got to hit pause for a second and separate what's possible from what's practical right now. As powerful as it is, it's not magic.
You know, the hype makes it sound like you can automate your entire life in 5 minutes. The reality is, it takes some work, some technical know-how. It's definitely not plug and play. You're looking at about a half hour to an hour of setup, and you have to be comfortable using a command line. And that claim that it's free? Well, the software is, but you're paying for every single time it has to think, for every API call it makes to a big AI model.
And yeah, we have to talk about security. This quote from the official documentation says it all perfectly. Giving an AI full access to your computer's command line is spicy. That's the word they use. It's incredibly powerful, but you're also taking on a real risk. You really need to know what you're doing.
So let's just be real about the limitations here. The browser automation, it's not perfect. It can fail. Those API costs, they can sneak up on you and get expensive fast. And again, this is a fast-moving, open-source project. It's not some polished, bug-free product with a support team. So keeping that in mind, let's get to the final verdict.
So we've seen the mind-blowing hype, and we've gone through the pretty serious reality check. So the question is, should you actually give Clawdbot a try?
This table really just lays it all out. If you're a developer, a power user, someone who likes to tinker and isn't afraid of a terminal, and if you really care about privacy and keeping your data local, then yeah, go for it. Dive in. But if you're looking for a perfect, polished product that just works out of the box with zero setup, it's probably best to wait for now.
So let's boil it all down. Here are the key takeaways. First, this isn't just another chatbot, it's a huge shift towards a proactive AI assistant. Second, its real magic comes from that combination of memory, proactivity, and local control. Third, the hype is real, but it's not a free lunch. It takes work, and you have to be smart about security. And finally, this isn't going to replace ChatGPT. It's something different. It's a super powerful, user-controlled alternative to AI in the cloud.
And that really brings us to the most important thing to think about. These kinds of autonomous agents living on our own devices, that's not a what-if anymore. It's the next step. Clawdbot is just one of the first really powerful examples we can all try today. So the real question isn't if this becomes a standard part of how we work. It's when. And do you want to start figuring it out now, or will you be scrambling to catch up in a couple of years?
Thanks so much for watching.